goes down, and we know that SNL goes on air. And so for Gil, my writing partner, and I, we measured our success by the ability to get, whether the audience cared about these characters moments before they went to air. And to achieve that, we created this kind of summer camp. The way that we made this. We made this kind of living, breathing, two-story set where everything inside it had to feel as though it was 100% real. So when the actors came in, they were walking into an immersive environment.
Yeah. Well, you see that in just the last 6 minutes I watched again. Everything's still going. Part of the set, the bricks are still being put down there. The film editor is brilliant editing here of this, every shot and the choices. The cinematographer is shooting it, and they've all got a fantastic costume design, from the original sketches and everything else that went into this. Is really an achievement, and I know this has been a dream of yours. To make Saturday Night was a dream of yours, to even be on the show in a way.
I think that this is the culmination of a few different dreams for me, and yes, I've been a Saturday Night Live fan, I'm sure, like every person in this audience, my entire life, and I've gone to see it live. I was a guest writer on the show once, and I wanted to capture that feeling right before it goes live, where even if you're sitting in the audience, you're absolutely terrified. There's something about live television, but more so, I grew up. My father was a director. I grew up on sets. I grew up on the trucks, and what I really wanted to capture was what it feels like when people come together to make something. It's a movie about the creative process itself, right. And a lot of the people that are sitting up here are people I've known forever, all the way down to Eric, who Eric and I have known each other since we were 15 years old. So we've all been making movies together for a long time, and that's what this was a movie about. It was about how people actually make things, and how that feeling, whether you've put on a high school show or a summer camp musical, everybody knows that feeling an hour before where it feels like this is never going to happen. And everyone has to somehow come together and coalesce, and I think that's the thing we talked about the most.
And you even started with the script, the screenplay, which you co-wrote with Gil Kennan, and tell me it wasn't your normal screenplay when you open it up to page 1.
No, for a few reasons. One, we decided to number the script backwards. So the first page was page 100, and then the second page was 99, the third page was 98, and it was a countdown. So as you were reading the script, the pages were counting down to 1. It also has double dialogue on every single page. So you guys know, like with double dialogue, we have like 2 dialogues simultaneously. We had so much dialogue that we needed to fit into the script that it's just the only way to get it all in is to always have double dialogue happening, because people are talking over each other all the time. And then even beyond that, we had a 50-page Google Doc that had all the additional things that were happening on screen at any given time. And we would have these meetings individually and sometimes all together where we would talk about this choreography, because what we were making was a musical. Yeah. It doesn't have any singing in it, but it's like a dance movie, and we started choreographing it months before, so that by the time day 1 happens, by the time the actors walk into the set, there's this choreography of the background all the way to the llamas that they're walking into a truly immersive environment.
And this is 80 speaking parts, I think. It's a huge cast, huge ensemble, but like speaking parts, I think about 80 I read somewhere.
There's 80 speaking roles. Yeah. There's about 30 main characters. Each one had to have an arc of its own and somehow kind of wind together. And then 80 background actors that worked every single day and who went through boot camp and learned their jobs, and all of them were choreographed so that it was this living, breathing set.
Wow, amazing, and what a cast you put together. Right next to you, Lauren Michaels. Is Lauren Michaels, Gabe, really great as you were as well in The Fabelmans. You may remember he played the young Steven Spielberg. Tell me what it is taking on somebody like Lauren Michaels. We hear his name every week. We've been watching this show for 50 years, some of us. And he's infamous, famous. Everyone talks about him. Did you meet with him? How did you approach this role?
Well, one thing that Jason and I were spending most of our time talking about was how the first thing Jason said to me when we started making it was, he's like, I'm not making a movie about Saturday Night Live. I'm like, yeah. No, wait, no, what? And he's like, I just want to make a story about young artists truly making something different that, nobody really believes in that thing. And it's like, just let me show you. And then you'll understand. And so that was the main focus. I even remember for the audition, you told me that you were like, yeah, I'd rather more Max from Rushmore than more Michaels.
Yeah.
And I think that was just the focus. I met him once briefly. Like I didn't plan on it. Like he was just gracious and invited us to Saturday Night Live before our first day of shooting, which is insane. Like the day before you're gonna be on set and you have to like stay up late to watch Saturday Night Live, and then you're actually meeting the guy that you've been studying for like a year. But no, it wasn't about really. This isn't like a biopic in the sense of like seeing his full life. It's just those 90 minutes. So it was just trying to focus on what's in front of you and being as present as possible in that moment. And I did read books and stuff, but just to give context to the script that Jason and Gil geniusly wrote. I mean, the fact that you guys, every single character has a beginning, middle, and end. Even like Al Franken and Tom Davis, like with the blood. They even have a full arc with getting the blood, and by the end, it's like all over Lorne. Like nobody pays attention to detail like that, like Jason, and that's why you were able to find all of these brilliant actors for us to work with, because everyone's so excited to be a part of this. Because the master, the artistry is just obvious.
Jason, you actually, in your research for this, you met with everybody that could possibly have anything to do with this?
We interviewed every living person we could find that was in the building on October 11th, 1975. So that's, we met Lauren, Rosie, Dick Eversole, every living writer, every living actor, production designer, costume designer, members of Billy Preston's band, NBC Pages. Anyone who could give us a sense of what it was like. And none of their stories added up. All contradicted each other. So there's a certain freedom that comes with that, and it means that, all right, this is about capturing what it felt like to be there. And I don't even trust them to know exactly what it was like, but between their stories, you start to understand this sense of, this is a group of young people that wanted to rip television out of the hands of the last generation.
Right.
That no generation is willing to give it up. And it's up to the young generation every time to just take it for themselves. And that became the ethos of the film. The question became, how the hell are we going to cast this thing? And that's what anyone would say when we would tell them the idea. They had a cool idea, how are you going to cast this? And we had an extraordinary casting director named John Passadera, who introduced me to a lot of people I didn't know yet. And we started trying to find people who could capture the essence of each character. But there was nothing like meeting Gabe. There was this moment, it was actually at a Fableman screening, and I walk up to Gabriel LaBelle standing next to Steven Spielberg, and somehow this young man, who was 21 years old at the time, is standing next to the greatest director alive, and Gabe's just holding court. And he's telling stories, and he's making people laugh, and I started talking to him, and I remember calling some of the crew the next day, and I was like, I think I just met our Lauren Michaels. And we went to coffee next day, we started talking, and I just realized there's a reason why Steven hired him to play himself. It's because when Gabe has this look in his eyes, you believe he can accomplish anything. That he's a dreamer, the way that Steven is a dreamer, the way Lauren is a dreamer. And I think the evidence is in the film that even when he's not talking, you can feel the weight of everything happening in the movie just by looking at this.
That's so true. That's really interesting too, because that was the way you were in Fablemans too, and you're editing that film and everything. It's all in the eyes, and you played it so well here too. This guy's whole life. I have to ask you, because I know they're wondering. It didn't all happen in the 90 minutes that you have here. All of these things, you sort of
It's basically a documentary. No, it didn't happen in the 90 minutes, but again, everything comes from a story that we heard.
Right.
Alan Zweibel being found in a bar, Milton Berle pulling out his dick. These are all real things, but what we're trying to do is use them to tell the story. And the story is about, at the end of the day, Garrett Moore's trying to figure out who he is. Chevy Chase is an ego that needs to be humbled. Every one of them has this arc and identity, and also they all need to come together and somehow coalesce. And it has to be something that anyone who's ever created something can recognize as the way an ensemble coalesces to make something.
But back to Milton Berle. So, J.K. Simmons is utterly brilliant in taking him on. There's that thing that he was the legend at NBC, and he did come to Saturday Night Live. That is true, right?
Milton?
Yeah, Milton.
Yeah, Milton is kind of famously known as the worst episode of Saturday Night Live ever. And Lauren refuses to let it re-air anywhere.
We still can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. And for us, he represented everything that television was. And this was a movie about a generational shift. So we need to find ways to remind the audience of this is what television was. And this is the kind of sense of humor it goes back to vaudeville and radio and the kind of variety shows that were on the 60s and the 70s. And again, these are the kinds of conversations that I was having with everyone that's sitting up here, is how do we capture this idea of what television was? How do we capture that shift? And it became a question of production design, costume, is everything.
And I want to ask Eric, as I didn't realize you've known each other since you were teenagers, so you must have a lot of secondhand, which certainly helps. But we saw this film today here at the Aero, because they can still play this, in 35 millimeter.
Bravo.
Film. So does that give you a feeling when you were looking at what you saw, maybe here, a little bit of difference in the way this is projected than normally at your local multiplex, which have never heard of 35 millimeter?
Yeah, well, the ironic thing is that we shot it in 16 millimeter. This is blow up to 35, but this is the way it should be seen. I mean, let's be honest. A theater like this, film print, it really captured everything that we set out to shoot and create. It was marvelous.
So what were your marching orders here from Jason in developing the visual look here?
Marching orders was, let's figure out how to make a visual representation of what it felt like to be at that either that night. Not a documentary, but a document that feels like it was just lifted from that evening. Fly on the wall, a lot of choreography, a lot of those whip hands you see from actor to actor, group to group is all in camera and meticulously planned months in advance. Jason and I would go and photo board every one of these scenes ahead of time while Jess was building the set. We're trying to build a set. We ask him to stop so we can shoot these photo boards and block this out so we can make sense of it all. Because it just you had to feel that energy, that pressure cooker.
I need to celebrate you just a little bit more, if you don't mind. So the entire set had no lights other than the practical lights. And in order to achieve that, we need to figure out every piece of actor blocking before our first day of shooting. Because it's a 2-story set, walls, ceiling, floor, and every light in there is a light that has to be built in with its cables hidden behind the wall so the camera could turn in any direction during a 5-minute take and never see anything. And as a result, Eric lit the entire movie before day 1. Right? I've never seen anything like it. I mean, every single light, every light in the ceiling of 8H, every light in the hallway, every practical that's in any room that you walk into, he's looking at the blocking that we're doing during rehearsal and figuring out every light placement before we ever start shooting, so that by the time we start shooting, everything is on a dimmer, and all he has to do is do settings, and the actors are given free roam of the entire building and can go any direction. Yeah, I remember Willem Dafoe's first day on set. He was watching from the balcony, and I finally came up to see him after hours, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "You know what I love about your movie? No edge of frame. I don't know what the fuck you're shooting."
Which must have been fun for him to see, everybody, to see the final film when you're watching it, and what did come in, because when you're shooting it, it's a totally different ballgame. That's fascinating, though, in shooting that way. Congratulations on that. And working closely with all of you work so closely together here. But Jess, talk about the production design looking at the original NBC studio, all of those things that go into it, how much you had to recreate, how much you created.
Sure. And again, talking with Jason and Eric, we had to create this. We had to create this space that inspired actors, sort of script, and we shot the whole thing inside one soundstage for the entire shooting schedule. So it was important for us to, make that thing as best as we could. And we had gone to SNL. We went to visit the studio early on, and there was a lot of evidence of, like if you cut that stage in thirds, the third that was the stage with the home base and the brick and Willie Press and all that stuff, there was evidence of all of those things, what it was. But the other 2/3, there wasn't that much documentation of that was. So like I said, along with Eric and Jason, we came up with a footprint that would work for the camera movement and the script, and just try to honor what was there in that first episode and adapt the rest of the space to what we needed, and just to keep the energy going. And like Jason said, the lighting, Eric, he did do a great job with all of the baked in lighting on the set and on the stage too, with all of the lights hanging out. It was like a big empty shell that we went into, so created the whole thing.
Wow. And so what was great about this too, production designers don't normally get to be in front of the scenes here, but you had, you're doing shots of people putting this set together at the very last minute. This show was not done. And so we get to see the work that goes into building a set here.
Yeah, and it's a world that I'm extremely versed in. I come from that, low budget, no money. No, seriously, in New York, just growing up, working in like off-Broadway theaters and going out to the dumpster, getting a chair, like all of these things. I actually felt like all the movies I've done up to this time led up to this one. It was like the payoff for everything that I've done, that I've learned along the way.
Well, tell them the other reason why this one was in your bones.
Oh, because I worked on the show. I wasn't like a full-time crew member on the show, but I worked in a set shop that we built scenery that was overflow when the NBC shop couldn't handle it. So I got in in the ladies, I got like good glimpses in there, and I just knew what it was like to move all that stuff around, go to a different floor, borrow a plan, cut a flat in half because it's too big for the elevator, like all of these things. So anyway, I'm gonna tell you, this was the most fun I've ever had on a movie.
The set was so perfect that when we were doing like camera and costume tests in Atlanta before our first nights of shooting in New York, and that's when we were invited to watch the real show. And from just rehearsing on our soundstage, I knew how to get around actual fucking Dirty Rock. I knew how to get to Warren's office when we were invited because
That was amazing. Literally, there was an NBC page who wanted to take us to go and talk to him, and Gabe was like, I know how to get that.
it's insane. It's perfect. Every detail.
That's amazing. Danny, talk about the costume design here and your biggest challenges in putting this all together.
I mean, as with everything in this movie, I think that the biggest goal is to make it entirely immersive. And to realize that with establishing most of the cast on day one, on the oneer that we shot, and so for me the goal was to create this kind of like living, breathing world where I can sort of release every performer, our lead actors, our background performers, all who shared an equal space and had equal responsibility in this movie, and to have them kind of moving around this space and knowing that their clothes fully inhabited their humanity, but I wanted it to be a real reflection of what the characters were fighting for in this movie. And I kept reminding my crew over and over again that this was not a glamorous New York. This is a garbage strike New York. This is a filthy, secondhand New York where, the characters in this movie are wearing clothes that they've been sleeping in for a week by the time you meet them. So I really wanted to make sure that the world was kind of teeming with life, and it's a challenge because I think that when people think of the mid-70s, they think of how fun and extreme it is, and it certainly has those elements, but there's a real earthiness to it, and I think that there's a real truth to it, and I wanted to express kind of like the earnestness of everyone's souls involved in this and what they were fighting for. And I really wanted to show the culture clash of the old guard and the new guard. And I kind of felt like that for me was like the constant struggle of making sure that this world felt like everyone in it had something they were fighting for visually.
Yeah, go
If
ahead.
I can, because you said it really quickly, and I really want to point this out. When you said everything works day one, this is a movie where there's no real background characters. Everybody plays foreground at some point, and on day one of shooting, over 100 characters between the main characters and background actors had to have their costumes ready. It's not like you can just like, oh, no, we don't have to worry about that costume until week 3. Everything works day one. And for writing a movie where we're going to introduce the audience to this many characters, and you have to somehow figure out who people are and track them. You're not like, and Gil and I, we purposely were not giving gentle introductions to everyone. It was like you were dropped into the movie, and you would figure it out for yourself. It is costumes that you finally, that becomes your linchpin of like, all right, I know that person, I know that person, I know that background, I know that camera guy. It's the costumes that make you go, okay, I have a relationship with this person.
That was the big thing that Jason and I worked most closely on in every discussion we had about every single character, was making sure that every person here was intentionally, deeply respectful and truthful to the real person they were portraying, but also had something about them that was iconic and unique, so no matter where you looked during all this chaos, you always knew who they were and where you were, and that there was never this like mud of people. We always were able to track everyone from our leads to like our amazing cue card holders. Just like we always knew.
Green visor, that's the one that always pops in my head.
Green visor.
Yeah.
He fought me on that too. He's like, I don't like this visor, and I was like, I promise you, you're the luckiest person. Everyone, and then like 1 week into film, he walks up to me and goes, Danny, thank you so much for the visor.
Those dark glasses on Dave Tebbutt, was Willem Dafoe's character, just so perfect, tells you so much about that guy. Just a piece of clothing or something that you put on.
Yeah, and it was based on tons of research. Every fitting, the wall was covered in research of each person, and we really had these like wonderful fittings because those were I had to figure it out then. We couldn't go back and be like, you know what, we need a different shoe. Like once they're locked, they're locked. So those fittings had to be really productive.
Wow, amazing. And it gives me such appreciation when I watch Saturday Night Live now. I'm looking, how great these costume designers are too. It's based on the news, based on something that might have happened the day before when they suddenly throw a sketch out, throw another one in, and they've got to come up with stuff that is identical or the stuff doesn't work. It's really an art that you guys do, and you should get lots of credit for it. But also in art, as I said, the film editing here is spectacular. So talk to Jason here about how you two work together and how you pulled this all together in this like frantic, manic kind of style that I was just looking again at shot. All going in here and talk about it.
Well, I think in this case, it's one of those wonderful things that by design, art from takes light, and Jason had this deadline to go to Telluride. And we finished shooting in May, and then we have to finish the film and submit it by the end of August. And so intentionally, all these things are working on top of each other. All these different departments are like intermingled and have to work together. Music was recorded live on set. I was on set with Jason, cutting as we go, showing him stuff. They would shoot Monday through Friday, and I would cut all weekend, and Saturday, him and I spent together. I would show him everything I worked on. We'd get notes, we'd either put things down. And then one of the fun benefits of like the fact that it's all one night, the costumes didn't really change. It was like blood, and the lighting also was consistent, is that we had a running list of like pickups and inserts and little things we wanted to get, like, oh, we need to see Lauren freaking out in this scene. So at the end of last week, we had this like fun little like hectic, all right, take B camera, go to get this clock and get Lauren doing this, and then get this brick here. And it was really fun collaboration across all departments.
the build-up, it's like a Hitchcock movie. It's a comedy, but it's like a thriller. You know, the way it's done, we're on the edge of our seats.
The first time Nathan showed me the edit of that second to last scene where they're in the control room and the countdown is happening, are we going live or going to tape? I just hugged him. Because I knew he had an ending, and his editing was extraordinary. And you said this quickly, but I think it's one of the most fun things about this film. John Batiste, who wrote the original score for the film, he wrote and recorded the entire score live on set. So we would wrap each day, and then he was playing Billy Preston. He and his band would change back into their street clothes, and then Nathan would bring them an edit in front of everybody. Everyone would stay because we were about to have a free concert. And Nathan would show a rough cut of something that shot 2 days before, and John would look at it, and then quickly turn to his band and go, I need a G to an A flat to a B back to a G. Then he would shake her arm, and then he would start playing it, and he would just improvise these ideas from watching the scene, and sometimes they were extraordinary, sometimes I was like, I don't know what he's doing. But every time we would bring it to the edit, and all of a sudden it would make sense.
Right.
And his music became the heartbeat of the film in a way that wouldn't have happened had we been sending him Locked Picture months after we wrapped. You know, from the very beginning, our hope was to make a film the way that they make an episode of Saturday Night Live. Every episode of Saturday Night Live, it started on Tuesday with nothing, and by Saturday they had a finished 90-minute show. And somehow, the nature of how they make it, which has never changed since day one, becomes part of what makes that show so special. It feels in the moment, it feels wily, it feels like these young people are just like pulling it together with Scott Shape. And I'm working with these brilliant people, actors and craftspeople and artists, and what we challenge ourselves to is to do the same thing. Is what if we put ourselves on a schedule that's impossible? What if we just support each other and make this thing in real time? What if the score is live on set, and we're editing in real time, and we have a locked picture 6 weeks after we wrapped the movie? Right?
So you could go to Telluride. I didn't know that until this moment, because that's where I saw it, at the first screening at Telluride, and I didn't realize that was the goal, to get it done by
It was
you.
3 months after we finished shooting.
Unbelievable.
If it was a film print, it would have been still dripping wet.
Amazing, across the board, and everybody involved, those who aren't here, those who are. You saw you got a packed house here today to see the movie the way it should be seen. On film, at the Aero, which loves movies, with fans, and